Your birthday is near. Someone asks you what you're going to do to celebrate it, and you answer something that, for some reason, confuses everyone. Nothing. It's just another day. And suddenly something curious happens. People start looking at you wrong. Your friends think you're being negative. Your family thinks you're in a bad mood. And society seems to assume that if there's no cake, candles, and smiling pictures, something must be wrong with you. But what if there's nothing wrong? What if the fact that your birthday doesn't matter to you says something very interesting about how your mind works? Because psychologists have studied this behavior and discovered something unexpected. People who don't care about their birthdays are not all the same. In fact, they usually belong to three very different psychological types. Some learn to not expect anything. Others simply have a brain that works in a different way. And a small group came to a conclusion that many people find difficult to accept. Let's start with the first one. There are people who stop celebrating their birthdays not because they wanted to, but because they learned not to expect anything. In the 60s, psychologist Martin Seligman discovered a phenomenon he called learned helplessness. When someone experiences repeated disappointments without being able to change the result, the brain starts doing something very curious. It stops trying. Not because the person is weak, but because the brain is trying to protect itself. Birthdays can easily become a kind of emotional experiment. As kids, we expect very concrete things. We expect people to remember them. We expect to feel special. We expect that day to be different. But when those expectations break over and over again, the brain begins to adjust its predictions. Here comes another interesting discovery of neuroscience. Researchers like Wolfram Schultz showed that dopamine does not only respond to rewards, it responds to the difference between what you expected and what really happened. If you expect something good to happen, dopamine goes up. But if you expect something and it doesn't happen, the drop is even greater. So over time, the brain learns something very simple. It is safer not to expect anything. And when someone says it's just another day, sometimes it is not indifference. It is a form of protection, a kind of emotional armor built little by little. But here comes something curious. Not everyone who ignores their birthday does it because of past wounds. There is another completely different group. There are people who honestly don't even remember their birthday. Not because they are sad, not because they are avoiding something. Simply, their mind is busy with other things. Psychologists call this temporal blindness. It is common in people who live very focused on projects, work, or ideas. When your mind is constantly focused on solving things, creating things, or moving towards goals, the dates begin to lose importance. The days mix, the weeks go by fast, the calendar stops feeling like a clear structure, and some events end up archived by the brain in the category of non-urgent. It is the same place where you keep that appointment with the dentist you have postponed 3 times, or that list of tasks that never ends. It is not a lack of self-love. It is simply that your mind is busy with too many things at the same time. But there is a third group, and this is probably the most interesting from the psychological point of view. These people do not forget their birthday, nor do they ignore it out of pain. They just don't need it. They have observed the entire birthday ritual, the candles, the congratulations, the celebration, and have come to a very simple conclusion. They don't need it to feel good. Psychology has an explanation for this. Researchers Deci and Richard Ryan, creators of the theory of self-determination, studied for decades what really makes people happy. And they found something curious. People with greater psychological well-being do not depend so much on external events to feel good about themselves. Their feeling of personal value comes from within. Not from a specific date, not from a celebration, nor from 30 people singing them an uncomfortable song in a restaurant. These people understood something that the researcher Philip Brickman called the hedonic treadmill, the human tendency to constantly pursue the next special moment, the next achievement, the next celebration, the next peak of happiness. But those peaks almost never last, so some people just get off that wheel. They don't wait for a special day of the year to feel important. They have learned to feel complete on any Tuesday. And curiously, that can bother others because it breaks a very widespread belief. The idea that everyone should want the same things, that everyone needs attention, that everyone wants to celebrate. But it is not like that. Some people have simply already solved that question inside. Still, not all people who avoid their birthday do it from a healthy place. Some do it for a very different reason. Imagine this. You are 8 years old. It is your birthday. You have been waiting for that day for weeks. You have told everyone about it. In your head, you imagine balloons, gifts, people gathered, and when the day comes, everything feels much smaller than you expected. Maybe someone important didn't appear. Maybe someone forgot to congratulate you. Maybe no one seemed as excited as you. And something changes inside you. You don't make a drama. You don't say anything. But you start lowering your expectations. The next year, you expect a little less. And the next, a little less. Researchers at Johns Hopkins University discovered something called the birthday effect. Our brain not only remembers certain dates, it also relives the emotions associated with them, even if years have passed. That 8-year-old child is still in there. But there is another interesting phenomenon. Psychologist Jennifer Crocker from the University of Michigan studied something called the contingencies of self-esteem and discovered that some people avoid situations that could confirm their fears about themselves. In other words, some people stop celebrating their birthday not because they don't need it, but because they fear that if they celebrate it and it doesn't come out perfect, that confirms something painful. So they prefer not to try it. It is a form of self-protection. And the difference between these two things is important, because there is a big difference between not needing the celebration and loving it but not allowing yourself to desire it. If you are someone who doesn't care about their birthday, ask yourself something with total honesty. Is it freedom or is it fear? Only you know the answer. But the simple fact that you are reflecting on it already says a lot, because maybe we have been measuring wrongly for years what it means to love yourself. We were taught that celebrating means that you care, that having a party means that you value your life. But maybe true self-love doesn't always feel like a party. Maybe sometimes it feels like something much more silent. Accepting that one more day in the calendar is enough. Someone may have spent their last birthday completely alone while watching this video and still felt perfectly at peace. If that's you, you're not broken. You simply belong to a group of people who don't need permission to feel complete. And if this video appeared on your screen today, maybe it wasn't a coincidence. If you have ever spent a birthday without celebrating it and you felt perfectly well, you can leave a calm comment. And if you are interested in these topics of human psychology, subscribe, because the next video could explain something more about you that you have not yet discovered.